everyone, welcome back to Student Pages Spotlight series. I'm your host Izzy, and today we're joined by the wonderful Hannah Schneider. Thank you so much for joining us today, and how are you doing?
Good, and thanks for having me.
No, thank you, it's our pleasure. So firstly, I just want to kick it off with congratulating you on your new album that's due to release 27th of February this year. How has that album helped inspire your creative process?
Well, I'm used to producing my own music in the computer, sitting concentrating on plugins and synthesizers and all kinds of stuff. And then sometimes I add some actual instruments on top. But this time I felt like trying to change it all around and get back to in a way what I find most amazing about music, which is playing with my friends on their instruments. And so I had this chance of being at a huge museum in Copenhagen in Denmark, where I live, as a residency, and I invited lots of instrumentalists to this residency and recorded them playing. And then I used those sounds and made them into sort of quite an electronic soundscape. But it was really inspiring for me to start the other way around and be sort of inspired by the actual instruments
No,
in the German
definitely.
age.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. And I'm really looking forward to the album release next month.
thanks.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and you as an artist and the inspiration behind your music.
Well, I'm very inspired by lots of electronic artists, but I come from both my parents are classical musicians, so I've also listened a lot to classical music, and I've sort of stayed away from that for a long time. But now I got interested in trying to combine these two genres, and so that's one of the things that inspires me and my music. And yeah, and I basically listen to a lot of music. I also think that I'm inspired by sort of the Nordic sound in a way. um I don't know if we have a sound, but I feel we kind of do when you see it from the outside. And I think I'm inspired by many of my colleagues around here in Denmark and in Sweden and Norway.
Definitely. And so you mentioned that your parents are both classical musicians. Is that kind of what helped you get into the industry, or is there anything else? Can you tell us a little bit about your path on getting into the industry?
Yeah, I played both violin and piano and sang in a classical choir when I was a kid, and I loved it. I loved the community around it. I thought it was really nice to play with people, but I also found it a little boring, to always have to play what other people said I had to play. So I found out that writing music was for me, the key of everything. That I had my own power when I sat down and wrote my own music. So in a way that sort of got me away from my background, and I was kind of the black sheep, because both my siblings, it turned out to be classical instrumentalists. So I'm like, whew, going outside of the family zone. But in a way, I mean, I started doing music when I was very young, and I feel that it's been sort of a thread through all of my life, and it's, yeah. So of course that helped me into it, and I got into the conservatory in Copenhagen, which is actually now kind of producing a lot of amazing artists, like Fine, Clarissa Connolly, all kinds of Øyunn. I don't know if you know these people, but it's quite an interesting scene, and it's a very yeah, it's kind of like a melting pot for a lot of different genres and a lot of music action.
Mm, yeah, very exciting stuff. And so you've already said that you were a bit of the black sheep of the family. You've clearly come from a very musical family, classical music in particular. But to anyone else, what do you think your music, like, how do you think your music stands out? I know you've said that you've got a very electronic sound, but how would you describe your music?
I hope my music is something that you can make your own pictures in your mind too. I feel that it's very cinematic. I feel that I hope that it creates like a sort of a that it's a soundtrack for your visions or your dreams or your imagination. So that's what I really want it to be.
Oh, that's lovely though. That's a lovely goal to have with your sound. And so when achieving that, I'm sure you've had a lot of support from other people, like you've said, a big sense of community. So could you tell us about how the people involved in your life have inspired you to strive to be where you are now?
Yes, I think basically, as I already said, that in music, for me, the most important thing is, you know, what happens between people in a room. I'm hugely inspired by people I meet. I also have been working a lot with directors. I'm doing film music and music for theater and dance also, and and I've worked with some poets also. So there's something about meeting someone who's good at something or who has some kind of input, and sort of bouncing off of that. I find that really interesting. I think being a songwriter and a producer and a composer or whatever you call what I do is really lonesome, and I find that my best sort of output and the way that I reach people best is by sort of uh, going for what happens when you meet up and just do something together. And I'm
Yeah.
hugely inspired by all kinds of other things like film and art and all kinds of things. So that's also where I sort of take my inspiration.
hmm And so when pursuing your dreams and like this creative industry, it's always going to come with a little bit of attention, whether that be good or bad. So do you ever feel like you've been affected by bullying or any hatred, maybe especially online? And how have you navigated that through the pursuit of your dreams?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's a really, really tough. My first albums was really like pop, electronic pop music, and I released them on Sony, and it was kind of a major label thing that I was really happy with. But it also exposed me in a quite sort of a way that I didn't have so much control over, and in a way, some of the decisions that I made during those times was very much affected by, you know, big industry. And I think that sort of got me a little vulnerable to sort of be in that space where people have an opinion on you and also feel that you are sort of far away from you, so you can write really nasty stuff about you. Or, you know, when you have a review, it's not necessarily a good review, and I am really sensible, so that's been tough. But I feel as I'm doing more and more what is very close to me, I find it easier in a way because um yeah, it's easier when you really can stand up for what you do all the way through. Then it's easier to sort of have a distance, I think. But it's,
Yeah,
I mean, it's not easy. I would lie if I said it. But I think pursuing what you really, really, really can stand up for yourself is a way of keeping those things a little bit at an arm's length in a way.
definitely. And so we've talked about now the negative impacts of social media, but also in modern day society, social media is such a huge part of our life now. So how have you utilized social media in like pursuing your dreams, putting yourself out there, and how important do you think it is to anyone looking to break in the industry to do the same?
I mean, I must admit, I mean, a lot of people don't like using social media. For me, it's an outlet. I use Instagram a lot. That's sort of my main channel. I find it, of course, there's a lot of bad shit, but there's also a lot of inspiration and a lot of community. And for me, the process is a really big part of what I do. I'm really interested in the process of making music. So in that way, it's kind of a nice thing to share, you know, how you do it, and just to connect with people on that level. I think is actually a really good thing. So I mean, my advice would be find the outlet. I mean, both the sort of the Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok or whatever? What you feel comfortable with, and focus on that. But also find something that you can do that doesn't feel like something hard. Something that it has to be something that feels like the fun and playful in a way. I have a friend who's really good at modular synths, and it's really sort of a geeky scene with lots of like cables, and but it looks really interesting, and he's really good at playing on them live, and it's very sort of intriguing. And he did a whole month of sessions up to his album with this, and it just he got in touch with so many people, and he boosted everything so much by actually doing something that he is extremely good at and that he finds really inspiring to do. So instead of like following a plan, doing what you think is right, then I think maybe find what feels easy and fun,
Yeah,
if you find that.
definitely. So the takeaway being that fun makes everything a little bit easier to do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um, Go on, sorry, go on.
well, I mean, it's not like everything has to be fun. Like sometimes it's work, but if you can direct what you do into a place where it feels, like there's something sparkling, then it's easier to keep it going. At least I think.
So how important was it for you to find people in the industry that were in sync with the type of sound and the type of message that you want to portray in your work and in your inspiration?
I mean, that's of the greatest importance for me. I think a lot of stuff I met a colleague. Also, I've been very much like the one girl of the gang, and I have many really really nice guy colleagues and friends, and it's not to say that, but I have a feeling that now there's starting to be more and more female producers and also musicians sort of behind the scenes, not only singing but like in all parts of the industry. And I met a really really wonderful friend and also now a colleague in almost everything I do, who's called Josephine, and we have like a duo together where we do performances and stuff with the voice, and we've toured a lot together, and we've also made a record label, so that's where I'm releasing my stuff. And we are very much like a community around this. We use each other for everything, like we, and sometimes it's even like a joke where we sort of mail out for each other. It's like, I have this really nice artist that you should check out, and then we sign with each other's names. And it's we may always make fun of it, but it's really valuable to have someone that you completely trust, who knows what your vision is, that you can sort of always bounce your ideas, or also the hard stuff, like who knows what it feels like to feel not appreciated, or have a bad review, or have a whatever it can be. It's really really valuable. So I think to me that's what keeps me going in this, like in the business part of my work, is that I have these colleagues that I really trust.
Definitely, and they become a shoulder to lean on throughout the good and the bad, which is
Definitely.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so, music aside, I know that you've said that you take a lot of inspiration from film, so I can assume that you enjoy film and cinematography. But what hobbies do you like to get up to within your free time?
Well, it's so sick because I'm so into music that it's kind of what I do all the time. But I also really like reading, and I think I used to read a lot, and then I had some years where I was sort of into all kinds of other things. But I've really started trying to sort of train those muscles. It's kind of like when you get into it, you read more and more, and it gives me a lot of perspective. I'm really into, I try to, I travel a lot with my work, and I really love that. And I try to go see art shows and performances and stuff that I wouldn't normally, come across, because I think it just inspires me, and it also makes me think about something else than music for a while, which is kind of a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that kind of becomes a break from your work as well, since your work is immersed in music. So
Yes,
it's nice to have other
yes,
things to divert to.
definitely.
And so for any students watching, anyone young looking to break into the industry, what would be your best advice that you would give to them?
Oh, um, well, first of all, I think that it's a lot of hard work, and I know this is like the basic thing to say, but it's actually, I think if you come to like the work, like write a lot of music to make the good music. That's a part of it, and also community is like key for everything. I think if you find a community that you can lean on, but also that helps you get up faster, I think that's crucial. And I also think, and I know this is a huge cliche, but don't compromise. I like the only times that I've compromised in my life with music is when I've felt the most shitty. And you can be promised all these kinds of things if you sort of make this compromise. And in my experience, it just never really works because it doesn't feel true. So don't compromise. It's just gonna bite you in the end. Yeah.
And so what would you say throughout your career so far has been your biggest challenge?
I think that in the music business in general, there is a huge focus on uh, when you when you make a debut, like your first release. Um, and of course there is, because that's new and exciting, and I totally understand that, and I think it's great. But I also think that there is a lack of focus on, and then there's a lot of focus on like the household names that are sort of like that everyone knows, that are old, or like, but in between, like developing your artistic voice and you know being relevant all the time and really trying to sort of find new ways of working. I think that's really tough if you don't have an extreme like fire inside for it. And so I think that's like the uphill battle, is to find a window when you made your debut album. And you always talk about like the hard number two album, or like the hard number three, but it's also about getting hurt and getting through, um and that requires a lot of, like, yeah, willpower, I think.
Definitely. I think the consensus from us chat today is that you've got to be passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Or you gotta find the way where like the place where you're passionate, and that
Definitely.
can also be within your field, like. I've done that. I've changed from like really commercial pop music that I love doing, and I love writing pop songs. It's not about that, but I just found a place where I can use even more of what I can do, and that for me is like keeps my passion going, I think.
Amazing. And so my final question for you today is, obviously you've got your album coming out next month. Um, is there anything else that you're working on right now, or is that taking up all your time at the minute?
Actually, I am working on a lot of different things at the same time, because my album has been finished. Now it's like getting released, so it's been finished for a while. But I'm working on two films, and um, I'm working on a theater performance at a big theater here in Denmark. And I am also working on creating a piece for a choir, like a classical choir, and that's a completely new thing for me. So, and then an electronic album also with a friend of mine. So lots of stuff, but of course now I'm gonna focus on playing release shows and playing a tour in the fall with this album and this material that I can't wait to play. Um,
Yeah, definitely. And I can't wait to hear it. It sounds like you've got a lot going off at the minute, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing all your projects coming through.
thank you so much.
So that is all we've got time for today. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and I really look forward to hearing the upcoming album. And I wish you all the best in all of your other projects. And thank you so much to everyone else for watching. Thank you, Hannah, for joining us today, and I'll see you all next time.